So Alex Becker, for what could be the 100th time, has called altcoin season as of today. And he thinks today marks a massive turnaround point, which, to be honest, is very needed. Because if we have a look at Becker's holdings, this is his tokens, his portfolio, sorted by 90-day biggest losses. And you can see, wow, from KiwiSwap almost down 100%, OXO down 88%, Graph AI down 87%, all the way down. All these double-digit negative losses to his portfolio has really taken a hard hit and had a lot of his followers start to question if he even knows what he's talking about. And so we're going to discuss why Alex Becker thinks today is the turnaround point for alt season, and for the first time ever, he is admitting that he was wrong in a very interesting way. So we're going to go through that together.
This video and all other videos on this channel are for entertainment purposes only. Modern financial instruments, including crypto, are highly volatile and the majority of retail clients will lose money. Do not invest any capital you're not prepared to go to zero.
If you're excited, hit that like button below and let's jump in. Let's start with Alex Becker admitting that his timing was way off. Crypto Dubsy, this got 267,000 views on Twitter, said Alex Becker spammed the timeline for 6 months, calling for an alt season that never arrived. And 6 months is actually an understatement. He probably did it for about 18 months, which actually makes it better because it did go up in that meantime. He missed the entire meme coin cycle, talking about gaming coins, and forced retail to invest before the massive sell-off dump. Probably one of the biggest failed predictions since Capo's $12,000 Bitcoin call. And this is him replying to an Alex Becker tweet back from September 13. I think this is where a lot of people get confused and slightly furious at Alex Becker, is when the price goes up, he does flex on you and say, he told you. But when the price goes down, he says stuff like this. He says, I'm allowed to be wrong, which finally he is capitulating and saying, yes, his timing was off. He's not just making fun of everyone, especially because this is starting to get more and more views. He says, I make no claims about being an expert or being amazing at this, which is true. He says, I literally state that he's gambling and to not get into micro cap tokens, which is tokens with low market caps that are highly volatile, like all these ones we just showed you here, if you are new, and that micro caps are a massive high risk, high return bet. So in order to get the returns that Alex Becker says are coming, you need to be able to stomach the losses. He says, I don't claim I forced or tricked anyone into buying these tokens. Buying low cap alts is literally the opposite of his advice, which in his videos he always opens up with stick to the layer 1 tokens or just Bitcoin if you are new to this. If you're new retail, I state its potential financial suicide in every single video he makes, which he does. But once again, the confusing part is when he flexes on you and says, I told you, when it goes up. It makes you think that like, okay, no, I am stupid for not getting in. He says, 2, on making people miss memes, he says, I told people memes print the most money and get the highest returns, but he does not talk about them or touch them because it's the hardest skill in crypto. He doesn't have time to live in the trenches. He builds businesses for a living. My strategy, and this is the core of his strategy here, is to buy good utility tokens and hold good utility tokens. I'll also add to this because I can give you a little bit behind the scenes because we track all of his wallets. It's not just buying good utility tokens, but it's getting partnerships and sponsored 6 figures plus of these good utility tokens and then waiting for enough exit liquidity, meaning retail coming, to be able to sell some of his back, because he is doing what is, in my opinion, very moral, is he's not selling any of his partnership tokens even through the 70% downs, because he knows that he'll be selling into his followers if he does. He says, I don't see why you'd expect a person whose strategy is to buy utility tokens to push meme coins. Memes are crazy hard. That's fine. We don't need to talk about the meme coins. Let's get back to Alex Becker's convictions on altcoins. He says he's held his positions, and that's true. He hasn't sold off these positions into his followers at all. He's rode the negative 70% with us, and he continues to. I still think that ETH busts an all-time high cleanly, and we see a huge run in utility alts. Now, this is true. This is his current conviction. He thinks that ETH has to get to $6,000, which is busting the all-time high. But he did say ETH had to get to $4,000 originally, and it did. And the alts didn't run as high as Alex Becker expected, even though they did run. There were some pretty decent returns that we saw in these altcoins. And C, alts, and this is what he says here, alts did run massively from 23 and 24, and people could take profits if they wanted to, and Becker said he wasn't selling. And I'm going to I'll jump to that now, why he says he's not selling. And he pulls up the BNB chart every time to explain his thesis. This here was the 2021 BNB, which is Binance's coin, massive run. And you can see if I zoom in, all of this looks basically flat for years until it spikes. But if we get rid of the spike, and this is Alex Becker's point every single time, you can see how volatile the hold actually is. Even if you bought it down here at $2.50 and it ran up, okay, you're an absolute genius. You had amazing opportunity by buying there and getting up to here. You would have seen almost a 60% pullback and felt like a real idiot, which is what Becker says we are in right now. And again, from the lows down here, $4.70, all the way up to about here, a massive opportunity, all the way drawn back down to $9. You once again would have felt like an idiot. But if you capitulated at any point and thought the alt season wasn't coming, you would miss out on this run up where none of this volatility would have mattered. That is why Alex Becker is not selling, because he's just waiting for that rocket ship to take us to the moon, and it doesn't matter what happened in the meantime for the last 2 to 3 years. My thesis always has been I'm not selling until we see a clean bust of the Ethereum all-time high, which is $4,800 US. I think this is a pretty non-controversial thesis, as ETH bust a new all-time high and running seemed very reasonable last year. I clearly stated if we didn't see this, I would lose all my money from the highs, and we didn't see it. That was the bet. Not every bet is going to work. So again, he is capitulating at the moment, saying that bet at the moment has not worked. But just like that BNB chart that I showed you, it doesn't matter to him if we get that parabolic banana zone. But he understands that people are struggling in crypto, because not everyone has his tens of millions of dollars from his business in order to hold them afloat in the market. But he says, if you're struggling in crypto right now, remember, the reason so few succeed here is literally because so few are active when the prices are terrible, which means these are the best times to buy, which we have not seen him personally actually buy anything at the moment. No one was here after COVID. No one was here after FTX. Any buys in these timeframes printed goofy returns. Even big coins like Solana went up this amount. All you had to do was be active and hold conviction, and these times made you wealthy from even basic buys. No trenches, no chasing hype, just buying basic tokens and squatting on them. And Captain questioned the timing because, as you've seen, and what's on everyone's mind is, yes, his thesis could be right, but we have lost a lot by actually holding them so far. Captain says, was the timing off? Was there a better time to actually buy? And Becker says, honestly, which is excellent, that he doesn't know. Nobody knows exactly when we're going to get that parabolic zone, but Becker is willing to take the volatility in the meantime because it's worth it when it arrives. But Becker thinks today marks a very specific and special day in the turnaround of these altcoins. And I'm going to go through a couple of factors of why that is and give his exact thoughts on it as well. One of Becker's strongest points that I've learned from him is this. This here is the top 30 bull market peak indicators, meaning how do you know we're at the peak of the bull market? How can you sell at the top? Well, these indicators historically have flashed when we're at the top of the bull market. Right now, 0 out of 30 of these peak indicators are flashing, meaning historically we're a long way from the high, and that parabolic zone is likely still to come. However, Becker has something, in my opinion, that is way stronger than even these 30 indicators that show we're not at the top. This is the data. But the social sentiment, which I think is way stronger, is also saying that we're peaked and we're going down. Becker says, writing off altcoins when everyone is declaring alts dead forever is probably going to be a poor choice, which is literally what marks the top of a cycle. It's euphoria. Do we have euphoria right now? Becker says, no. Not everyone is going to be able to predict the market going down. But even if Becker's right and we're not at the top, his timeline says now a few months, because everyone wants the prices and tokens to absolutely rally. And if we go to CoinMarketCap now, we get off Becker's holdings, go back to CoinMarketCap here, you can see we're having a very strong turnaround day with the news that I'm about to break to you very soon. Even the top tokens are now up about 20% each, which is excellent because there is life in the market. But Alex Becker is saying this could take months before we see that full parabola, which is coming for one very particular reason in Alex Becker's mind. Income Sharks said it the best, and Alex Becker responded to them with a comment that just said, yes. Income Shark says, the money printer in the US finally turns on and people are asking questions and overanalyzing it all instead of grabbing bags and loading up as much as possible while things are on easy mode. Basically, the money printer is being turned on, more money is being put into the economy, and people are second guessing if this means that tokens and crypto or other assets that are down the risk curve are going to go up, when historically, every single time that happened, they have gone up. Alex Becker says the government is printing again. Rates are going down. Every government, corporation, and bank and payment processor is adopting crypto. If you're full crypto is dead here, you are foolish. And in fact, we are getting an announcement that the tariffs in the US may be paying $2,000 per US citizen in a stimulus check, which gets it in the hands of the mainstream who like to invest down the risk curve into riskier assets like altcoins and microcaps. And in fact, Trump apparently has officially predicted that 20 trillion US dollars could be injected into the US economy by the end of this year, which would be absolutely absurd. If this happened, this would very likely lead to that parabola, that banana zone that most people are waiting for. And that's because of this chart right here, where in the green is the year-over-year M2 money supply growth, which if $20 trillion gets injected, this is going to go off the chart, because you can see it is a 1-to-1 correlation of when the money printer gets turned on and the M2 and the money growth in the US accelerates, which is again these green waves. You can see the price of Bitcoin, which is here in the black, has always accelerated and correlated to the peaks of the money printer. The only asterisk here is that if you're following Alex Becker and you want to cash in on this parabolic zone, you do have to be careful and you do have to be wary, because he has spread himself over dozens of tokens. At this point, we've actually had a couple of other partnerships that he's partnered with during this downturn, which we haven't put in here yet, but he has about 80 different tokens across his portfolio, and some of them are dead, some of them he's no longer backing even more, and a lot of people are confused at which tokens are his. So make sure you hit that subscribe button, because we break down Alex Becker's portfolio, his holdings, so we know which of these tokens he's more bullish on and even more exposed to himself, so that we can copy trade his portfolio and get the exact results that he gets, whether that is down or up crazy amounts when the liquidity starts flowing.